Rob Thomas calls her the bomb. Usher calls her Mama. Scooter Braun calls her the secret sauce. In this episode, we head down south to Atlanta, Georgia, and visit with longtime Peterson tuner user and celebrity vocal coach and vocal expert, Mama Jan Smith. She shares her knowledge and has me demonstrate how the strobe doesn't lie. For 20 plus years, Jan Smith has been a prominent figure in the music industry, either as a singer-songwriter, a producer-consultant, or most notably, the vocal coach and vocal producer who has tended to some of the most distinctive voices in the music business. When I hear that someone of her caliber and specific instrument has been using Peterson strobe tuners for many years, it definitely draws my interest. Let's go in and meet her. We're here at Jan Smith Studios with Jan Smith, also known as Mama Jan. Mama Jan, what is your business? Who is your clientele? And what exactly do you do specifically as a vocal coach?
Well, my business is Jan Smith Studios, as you stated, and what we are known the most for is doing vocal coaching. Okay. Although since the industry stopped doing real artist development several years ago, we've kind of gotten to be the go-to place for full-on artist development. Anything wow. From the beginning, working with the artist, the vocalist, and then taking them all the way through for songwriting, stage performance, tour prep, pre-production, and full production.
So more than just developing their craft as a vocalist.
Yeah, but it all centers around that artist and the
right.
singer is what we're known for.
And that instrument, which is the
Absolutely.
voice that everyone has.
Absolutely.
I want to know, when exactly did you first hear of Peterson, and when did you start using a strobe tuner as a tool as a vocal coach?
Two different answers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The first one is I played in rock and roll bands when I was a teenager, and all through my adult life, that's what I got into all this for, because I'm an artist. So playing in rock and roll bands, I bought my first Peterson strobe tuner probably over 30 years ago.
Oh wow!
A great big huge honking thing.
Yeah. So
my band toted around the old Peterson strobe, and that's how we tuned. That was the big thing then.
Yeah.
If you had one of those, you were serious.
You were professional.
Absolutely. As the years went on, and I got into doing vocal coaching, because that old Peterson strobe still had the microphone, so I could sing into it. I started playing with it myself, and then brought it into the studio and actually started using that as a way of training artists to understand what intervals were, so that they could hear it inside their head and not be dependent on an instrument or even a track.
Right.
That because a whole step or a half step it's the same thing as an inch. An inch is an inch is an inch. Well, if you can train somebody on that grid and
right.
let them see it, then they really have more control of their actual instrument, knowing how to tune their voices the same way that we tune that McPherson guitar or whatever,
right.
By using that tuning peg.
Right, true. And then the Peterson gave you guys a visual representation of true tone.
Yes, it does. And it allowed my artists to really see that pitch is controlled by the tension of your vocal cords, and they could move it in and out and really get more of a fine motor control.
Right.
Because it's such a delicate instrument, your vocal cords, and it's hard for people to feel that, but when they could see it, they understood that they were making that correction.
I've heard of people having perfect pitch. Can you describe perfect pitch?
You know what? Perfect pitch is really a rare animal, if you want to know the truth. People who have perfect delineation ability are actually born with that. It's kind of like tone deafness. Tone deafness is a term that's thrown around a lot, and people think that that's just attributable to bad singing. There are a lot of bad singers, but real tone deafness is like you and I being born deaf. So people who can't really hear the different frequencies, they'll never be able to. People who are just bad singers, they can be taught to be better.
And so with perfect pitch, that's somebody who can discern all of the frequencies perfectly.
Absolutely.
Theoretically.
And yes, and then there's a thing called relative pitch, where people have trained themselves over a period of years by repetition to be able to hear, like, where's a middle C or where's an A or where's 440.
Right.
That's a relative pitch issue. And then for people like me, I have perfect intervallic pitch, meaning I can pretty much nail whatever interval. If you say a fourth, a flat five, a octave, a fifth, whatever, I'm down.
What does it mean to sing in harmony?
You know what, Kenny, harmony is often confused as just singing a third above where the lead singer is.
Okay.
Harmonies are actually derived from the notes in chords. So as the chords in a song might be moving, there also are your harmonies that move with that. There's a thing called roving harmonies, where you might be a background singer who is singing along with the lead singer. But it's not just a perfect third above what they're doing.
Okay, so there's a few different ways to sing harmonies.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Yeah. When you're tuning a voice, are you tuning the vocal cords, or are you tuning the ear, or is it a combination?
I think that when you are tuning anything, it's a combination of being able to hear it, whether it's inside your head or in your inner ear, as I'll call it, or ambiently outside of your head. But when you're working with the voice, you're actually working with that fine motor agility to be able to tune that in, to fine tune it. Kind of like a violin has the little fine tuner.
Absolutely.
That, to me, that's what the Peterson allows me to do with my clientele, is to get the gross motor functioning of just being able to sing a scale, but then to really fine tune it and hone it in.
Right.
That's the bigger piece of it for me. That's the magic of using the strobe tuner to really, hone in on what they're hearing inside their head.
The Peterson Strobo Plus HD is an ultra-high resolution strobe tuner with our largest illuminated display ever featured in a traditional strobe format. Chromatically tune any instrument confidently to the exacting standards that experienced musicians demand, or use any of the over 90 exclusive sweetened tunings that are developed and optimized for your specific instrument. Use the built-in mic, plug-in, or use a clip-on pickup to tune your instruments quickly with its smooth real-time display, or program your custom tunings using our Peterson Connect online utility. For more information, please visit petersontuners.com.
Now I see that you have the 450 here, which looks like you've had for quite some time, and I know that
it still works.
And it still works. And it looks like it still works great.
Plug and play, baby. Plug and
Now we brought you the new HD.
I'm so excited.
I know. Well, I'm
so excited.
You definitely are going to get your use out of it. You were telling me something before that you use the iPhone app.
Oh, yeah.
A lot with your students.
Well, what I do is I use the old 450 in my studio, and just as by way of example to them, and show them how to use it. And then if they have iPhones, I invite them to download, to purchase the Peterson Strobe on their phone, and then I just show them how to use it so that they can carry that with them. A lot of my artists are players too, so not only are they using it to tune their guitars, but for them to use it to tune their voices, they never thought about practicing that way.
Right, and it kind of holds them accountable.
Sure, absolutely.
Visually. Well, that's pretty cool. Now, how do you exactly use the Peterson? Do you just have your clients or your students sing scales or harmonies, or how exactly? The circle of fifths?
Why don't I show you?
Okay. I would love that.
Okay, let's do that. Yeah. So what I would do, and typically in a session, I'm working with people on intervals.
Okay.
The space of sound, if you will.
Okay.
So what I would do is by example, just show them what I do. So I'm going to hit this middle C for you. All right.
Okay.
Now, you and I are acoustic instruments.
Right.
If we were electronic, we could just plug in, and that's going to stand more flush, right?
Right.
So as acoustic instruments, we're always going to see a little bit of the air drivenness to it, and then explaining sharp and flat. Sharp meaning a little above center, a little below center is flat.
Right.
And then also just showing them how to how to zone in on that, right?
Right.
And then when I'm working with folks, we're taking the half step first, just half step up, half step back. So I'd go do 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 do. So as target practice,
right?
And I'm pretty experienced at this, so it makes it look really easy. Now let's let you try.
I want to try this, but I want to point out one thing while we're doing this is this 450 is not an auto strobe. So when she's turning the dial and she's singing into it, and it's reading true, that motor's spinning directly on that C, and she's nailing it. I'm kind of nervous.
What that really means is that I'm actually pretty good at this part of it.
I would say so.
Just for the
I
fun.
would say so. I hope I don't disappoint.
No, but here's the bottom line. it is about walking my walk. And so I actually have trained myself this way too, you know, so it really is a tool, not just for my artist, but for me as well.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now, because your voice is probably doo doo, if you want to put it down an
Right.
octave. Okay, so hit that note. And let's see where the C is. Now, you know what? Now, see, you just did what a lot of my clients do. You saw that you were a little sharp, and so what you did was you backed off on your volume. So this is also a good teaching tool to explain to people that volume doesn't control pitch. It's kind of like if people are singing a note that's flat and they push it louder, they're just singing a bad note louder.
Yes, yes.
So this really helps people
okay.
to begin not just to control their pitch, but the Peterson Strobe for me has been a learning tool that helps people understand dynamics as it relates to pitch or not. Does that make sense?
Interesting. That does make sense.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Let's hit that C again. Okay, now let's try to go a half step up. Let me show you what this sounds like. Do. I'm going to go down to your register. Do, 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 do. So that's your half step. Okay, so let's go back to that C.
Do.
You're a little sharp, which means to loosen up. So slide your voice down like a sliding board, just a tad. Getting closer. Okay, now go up that half step for me. Up a half. That's on. You're on the same note. You're stuck. Okay, let's get you unstuck. Okay, now what that does is it lets you see how small the half step is.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? So what this does for me as a teaching tool is it really begins to help the client to zone in on what they're doing, how they're controlling their voices, and this is very specific.
Very specific.
I will be honest with you and tell you that it was my great honor and privilege to work with Usher, who I think is one of the greatest artists and singers on the planet. But there were things about theory he really didn't know. So in between his album 8701 and Confessions, I had a good portion of the summer, about 3 months, to really work with him and hammer him on pitch and intervals. And I sat him in front of this strobe tuner and worked him to death on half steps, whole steps, major, minor. To my great honor, then when he went into the studio to cut Confessions, which is really the benchmark album of his entire career, it made such a tremendous difference for him to have the command of what he was doing intervallically on that album that was so much more of kind of a profound level that people wrote about it and talked about it. So that's just a case in point.
I wonder if he was seeing the strobe in his head as he was singing. He probably was.
He may have been, but I will tell you this: it certainly made him a better singer and more on point. And from that point forward, people have noted that about his vocals, and that's my work. That's what I do. Hey, this is Mama Jan saying, if you're singing bad notes, you're a bad singer. Peterson Strobe Tuner is the way to kind of get there. So work on your tunage, singers.
I'm Kenny Barnwell. This is Tuned TV. Until next time, stay tuned.